Good evening and welcome to the Town of Garner work session, February 27th. It's very encouraging to see so many of you here, even on such a gray and stormy night. All 5 of you. Thanks very much for coming. But we do have some business to take care of tonight, so we'll move right along. And we should start the meeting with the roll call. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Buddy Gupton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Elmo Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Behringer. Here. Councilmember Damian Dellinger.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Councilmember Singleton.
Here.
Okay. And let's see, I thought we might have a member from the Planning Commission joining us, but I don't think I see one.
They may be viewing online.
Oh, of course they are. Hello to our home audience as well. We don't see you, but we're thinking about you. Okay. I also want to mention that our town manager, Rodney Dickerson, has the privilege of attending a state playoff game that his son is in, and that trumps everything else, quite frankly. When your son's in a championship game, you've got to be there. So we'll have Miss Jody Miller filling in for the town manager report and stuff coming up later on. So first, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda tonight.
So moved.
And that's moved by Mr. Vance. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Matthews, I think. And now, as we call for a voice vote on this, I'm going to try something different and ask all those in favor to say yes.
Yes.
Okay. All those opposed say no. It's simple. Nobody voted no. It's unanimous. It passes. Yes and no I can remember better than aye and nay. Nay reminds me of some horse talking or something. It just doesn't even make sense. Okay. So that being the case, we'll move right along with the current agenda. There are no presentations that I know of tonight, no awards. So we'll move right along to our discussion and reports. And now this is one that I am genuinely excited about. It when I mentioned it to Mari Howell just a few minutes ago, who will be our presenter, that I was excited to see the new software. She wondered what was wrong with me, quite frankly. But it really is a great scientific advance. And Mari and Paul Padgett will be giving us a little overview of what's going on and the new tool that we have to make us more efficient and more effective. Mari, would you mind sharing with us and doing that particular report?
Good evening, Council. One moment to pull this up. Okay. Well, I'm glad that everybody has been very excited as we are the main event this evening, I've heard. The last time that you had a chance to hear from me about SmartGov, our Development Services Permit and Inspection Portal, was back in July, I believe. We've made a lot of progress since then. We are pleased to announce that we have begun the rollout. And so I wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of an update and an overview of both the public-facing and staff-facing parts, and Paul will be able to give some more information about our back office pieces as well. Just as a brief overview, we wanted to kind of remind y'all how far we've come, and it has been quite a ride, right? So back in fiscal year 2018, Council allocated funding for the Development Services Automation Project. We spent some time doing some initial software evaluation and determining if there were enough staff resources at the time to take that on. Meanwhile, we really saw our peer communities that were undertaking software implementation experiencing a lot of challenges and obstacles doing similar work. So we kind of took note of that, watched their experience. COVID hit. We had to kind of pivot and really focus on what kind of process modifications needed to be made in order to get through that time. And we kind of also continued to pay attention to what challenges were occurring nearby. In fiscal 1, we really started focusing on this project and getting down to work on it. We finally had staff resources that were available to take on project management. So we began with priority and goal setting with our development services staff, and we started doing initial software demos. We really kind of did the deep dive on that and checking in with other folks that use it to see how they liked it. We made our vendor selection and kicked off. We basically spent the last 18 months or so, a little bit more, going through our process analysis, configuration, sourcing some additional software and hardware that supplements the system. And really in the last since beginning of this last fiscal year, we really focused a lot on staff training, getting our existing data migrated, and finally our go live and public rollout. This is sort of your first look at our public portal. So when you go to the public portal, which is now live, you're going to find 40 development permits. Over 20 of those permits are being reviewed by 2 or more departments, so it facilitates the review process that's being done. 2 are being renewed. 2 are processes that are renewed annually, so it helps to automate that renewal process. These 40 permits include over 80 field inspections, 100 plus development fees, and we've taken advantage of the opportunity to transition over 25,000 existing records from various town databases into the system. So I do want to say that's somewhat limited in nature, but the data is there, and we are able to kind of have it for reference as other databases sunset. The main thing we want to talk about tonight is kind of what we have been doing since go live, which our official go live was actually on December 19th. You may be asking what we've been doing since December 19th, and the answer is we have been investing a lot of time in final configuration and customization of our software. So between Paul and myself and the rest of the development services staff, we have invested at least 400 staff hours since December 19th. I actually think that's a gross understatement, to be perfectly honest. Paul and I ourselves might have put in that much time. So we've really been working hard on getting it ready for the public. Between that time and now, we've really focused on getting those permits set up the way we want them to be, working with staff to help them learn the software, and talking through a lot of those internal processes that are going to be needed to supplement and support the system. In January, we went live with our business registration, which has been transitioned from the finance department handling the renewals to now it will be handled through SmartGov and with the assistance from the inspections department. That was sort of our test run of getting people in there. We've also opened up a couple select permits while staff was completing their data entry from things that had come from permits that had come in between December and January. As of February 20th, all of our permits are currently live. So anything that you're able to apply for on SmartGov is now accessible. In tandem with going live, we've also done a number of updates to the town website. Particularly, we've focused on sort of recreating the development services landing page as a centralized hub for information that's an add-on to the department information. We've also done a lot of updates around the department pages to simplify their navigation and make sure that we're clearing out so that those old files of applications and really focused on making sure that the portal is visible across the website. So anywhere you come in, you can find that portal. That's one of those things when I was looking at other communities, I would often, Google plan review or portal, and it was amazing how difficult it could be to find it. So my goal with making these updates was to make sure that no matter where you came in, you would be able to find the portal, you'd be able to find your development resources, you'd be able to get to what you needed relatively quickly. That's just a brief overview of how we've gotten here. I wanted to give you kind of a first glance at some of the what the public is seeing as they're applying for permits. So SmartGov's public portal is a one-stop shop for our customers, right? When they log in, they're able to see all of their applications in one place, regardless of what department they're applying to. They're able to save drafts of their applications as they go. They're also able to give access to anybody who's associated with the project. Anyone who works with it, whether it's a property owner, a consultant, a contractor, an HOA representative, if they want to, they can provide access to those permits, and so people can see what's coming in, they can contribute to them, things like that. So you really are expanding the range of who's able to participate in this permitting process. One of our focuses has been on creating simpler applications, and the benefit is that these applications can be submitted 24/7. There's no longer a requirement that you have to bring anything to the front desk. You're no longer constrained by those, the hours that town hall is open. There's also no more paper applications or printed plans coming in, no more monthly submittal deadlines, and no physical drop-off required. So these are pretty significant improvements for us because those are the things that developers have been able to do in other communities for a while, and they've really been looking forward to that. So we're very pleased that we're able to offer that now. In addition, applicants are able to pay their fees online by credit card or electronic check. They also have the option to receive automated status updates as their permit goes through the process if they're signed up to receive the email updates. So So when I mentioned, no more paper plans, we're able to accomplish that by moving to electronic plan review. So that means that when someone is submitting an application, they're doing online file uploads. Because they're able to submit that online, we're able to move to a rolling submittal. So there's no more monthly deadline or waiting to respond to comments as soon as they get their file back. They're able to, pretty much as soon as they can turn it around, they can upload a new version of their plans. So significant potential time savings there. Staff is conducting the e-plan review in Bluebeam, which Paul will talk about a little bit more. One of the great new benefits of this is that it creates a comment markup file. So previously, if you had a permit come in, you got staff comments, but there was nothing visual to go with it. So now applicants will be able to download a markup file that will have, can be drawn on and shows more visual detail about the comments staff are making. Staff will also be able to sign these plans electronically. So again, they don't have to bring in a final plan set. They're able to just upload it through the portal. SmartGov uses review cycles, and that is a great way to track the version history of different submittals. You'll be able to see what came in when. You can have different versions of different submittals happening at the same time. And it also helps to keep staff comments associated with each version of each submittal. So as applicants complete the permit process, they're able to follow their projects through the workflow by looking at the approval steps. As you can kind of see, it's a little small, but you can kind of see, it shows who's in the process of reviewing, and it'll say something like in review if they're working on it. Let them know which departments are looking for resubmittals. Applicants can also request and cancel inspections online once their permits are issued, either directly from their permit or there's a request on the main page. And one of my favorite things is that staff is able to tie in related permits, which means that when someone comes in for a pre-application, staff can start saying, based on what you've told us, we think you need to do a site plan or you need to do a major subdivision. They can add that. Engineering can say, we are going to need to see construction with drawings, construction drawing permits. And so they are able to add those things. And then as they get through to the building permit phase, we'll be able to link all of those things together. So you really be able to see the permit hierarchy and the process of that permit and project through the entire development process. I mentioned that we had transitioned our business registration to SmartGov. So we're using a slightly different module for that. It's a licensing module that allows us to automate the renewal. So I think this is going to be a great weight lifted off the staff because, again, that used to be something that happened once a year. It was, we're sending out paper copies of letters asking for renewals. Now folks are able to sign up for their registration, and that way they're able to renew on an annual basis, and it will be rolling. One of the really big benefits of this is that it reinforces the public safety purpose of the business registration program. It's going to be significantly more integrated with both zoning permits and fire inspections. So we're making sure that we're closing the gap on getting that important information for businesses, and police and inspections would have 24/7 access to that business emergency contacts that we collect with that application. So rather than having to, contact finance potentially to get the information that's on a paper application, they're able to log into SmartGov in the back office, look up who's listed as emergency contacts, and contact those people in the moment. Finally, the last thing I wanted to share is that there is a public search option for development activity. So basically parcels are sort of the backbone of all of the permitting and inspection activity that happens in SmartGov. So anything that is submitted will be tied back to a parcel, which means that citizens have the option to go in and search for development applications. They can look at by parcel number, address, or property owner. There's even a map interface for some visual searching. And you do not have to have an account in order to search for things. So you do have to have an account in order to apply for permits. Do not have to have an account just to do any searching. So it is dependent on what kind of information we determine, what is public information of our permitting, and we'll be having some discussions going forward about what information for each permit should be out there. So just know that may be growing over time, what's available from that. But I did want to share that is there. Any citizen can go and search parcels and see what comes up in their neighborhood if they want to.
What's sort of the conversation already around what is to be made public and what's not? What sort of the parameters or guardrails are being talked about?
We have not had much discussion about it because a lot of it has just been getting used to what is there. So that is going to definitely be one of those next conversations of what's appropriate to be out there, what kind of information is sensitive to applicants. Right now, if someone goes in there, they can see that a permit has been applied for. They can see who the applicant is. It's limited to that at the moment. But there's the option to, you can share some details from the permit. You can share some you can share some submittals, things like that. But we just want to have that discussion internally to make sure that we're all aware of what should be out there before we do anything.
It might be helpful to sort of bring a comparison of what other municipalities are
Sure.
doing so that we can, at least when we're looking at it, understand where we fall on a spectrum of
Yeah.
data availability.
No, that's a great idea. We haven't had a lot of time to do that yet, but I definitely agree that that's a great place to start to find out what our options may be. So I'll turn it over to Paul to talk a little bit about the back office.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for getting this software to us. It really is helpful to our staff. It has been a journey, but looking really forward to moving forward with it. We've had a good week so far with it. So the back office side looks a little bit different than the front portal side. It's broken up into tabs, so it lets our staff, whether it's our permit techs or our permit intake folks, our plan reviewers, our inspectors, whoever it is, kind of move through those tabs and focus in on where they really need to get their information from. Combines all of the components of our permitting process. So our application details are there for us, the parcel data, our contracts, contractors, all of our fees, we can verify those. All of the submittals are listed in a section. You can actually open them in PDFs there, or you can push them out to Bluebeam for review. We're able to automate steps in there with our workflows. So things that we might have to walk down the hall and pass paper, the computer is actually, or the program is actually doing that in the background for us. It covers our inspections. We can actually enter those in the back office side or on the mobile app, and I'll show you that here in a little bit, which really gives our folks in the field a huge tool. Just like Maury said, we can actually tie our permits together. So I can actually start tying my our commercial permits back to the original planning permit that the thought process came from. So we can actually see it from dream to walking through the doors and track that process. For our staff, the users can search all permits for info and updates on their own. There's plenty of search features. You can really dial down. If you know the exact permit number, you can put that in. If we just know that it's a subdivision, we can start narrowing down that search. The main focus as we were trying to build this out is being effective and efficient. We are a small town. We are a small staff. What can we do more? How can this tool help us do that? So our online applications, it helps eliminate, right now the current process is our development services staff are actually data entering each of those permits after our customers entered it on the computer or hand wrote it out. So now we're just verifying that information, making little tweaks and adjustments as we need to. We have a user to-do list that is on their dashboard, shows up every time they log in. That's what's keeping them current on what do they need to focus on right now. It's actually prioritized by due date. Our electronic plan review, it reduces our wait time. We all can be doing the reviews at the same time, and we can actually see our comments when we're in Bluebeam. You can see who's actually in there reviewing. You can see the comments they made. We might be able to address conflicts right then and there. If we see, if I see Jeff's crew made a comment and it affects fire apparatus access, I can call that reviewer and say, hey, have you thought about this? And we can kind of work that out before it even goes out the door. And then we can see when folks are done. You actually go under your status and you click finished, and then we know you're done. And if we can actually push that review out early. and not have to wait to the due date. We have alerts in there. There's nice flags that come up. If we do put a deficiency report to it, if I go under there and throw a stop work order in it, it's going to flag that permit for our staff and for the permit holder. Our current process, if I have to reassign inspections, it's opening each inspection and assigning an inspector to it. Here, we can actually do a bulk reassignment. So if I've got one of my inspectors that call in sick in the morning, I can grab every single one of their inspectors and reassign it to another inspector, and it may take me 30 seconds, where on a regular day, that's about 15, 20 minutes. So we talk about the Bluebeam. So that is a really awesome tool that connects in here. We can actually make the comments on the plans. It's pulled right back into SmartGov and goes into a deficiency report, but the markups on the plans are so important. Otherwise, they're trying to hunt for that page number and everything else. So this is a super great tool for, I think, our staff and even the applicants. We talked about it being coordinated, and we can now coordinate with our off-site folks. Raleigh Public Utilities, we'll see their comments on the plans, they can see ours. So. The automation I talked about, so we're using the parcel data like Mari said. So it's pulling data in weekly as Wake County's adding parcels. We're bringing them into our system. The other part is, so in the mornings, our staff takes all of our fees that we've collected the day before with the credit card receipt and carries it across the hall and gives it to finance. That automation is now available. It'll work in the background. So, and we're working on getting it where it goes right into Munis. So, the main purpose there is save some of that manual time where we were doing things. There's huge audit systems in there. You can literally see who's doing what, how long it takes them to do things, who changed an address, who changed a status. So we can track all of those changes throughout the life of the permit. That's the back office side. Staff's still learning it, and they're kind of having fun with it. So it can be on Android or Apple. We chose to go with iPads, so we have those for the staff. It literally allows them to see the plans in the field on the iPads and complete the inspection. So I've got some screenshots from the app itself in here in a couple more slides. But they can access all of the permit data, the contractors, the applicant, every submittal that was submitted along with it. You can go back to the permit. You can go back and see the child or parent permits to that as far back as we wanted to as it's connected. It does allow for offline access, so most of our folks are carrying MiFis with them, but if it goes down or they're in an area where there's bad service, they can always sync it before they get there. Our process is we're going to sync in the morning, and then that way if they do step away, they can work off of that downloaded data. As soon as they get back to the MiFi or one of our buildings with Wi-Fi, they hit sync again, and it'll push that data out and update SmartGov and the permit holders. So we did use iPads. It also allows us to take pictures of any deficiencies in the field and put it right to that inspection report. So they can see what we were noting instead of trying to decipher it in our writing. So we've been conducting training this week. We did some last week and this week. And then our main focus is to try and get all of our inspections being conducted by Friday on SmartGov. So it's a big step, but I really do think we're going to meet that. We're trying to keep them from having to work in both systems because we're afraid something's going to get missed. So here's the first page that they see when they log in the mornings. It literally is their list of inspections, and it shows where they are on the maps. The maps will actually, if you click map, it'll tell you how to get to that inspection from wherever you are. It does not route, like take all of your inspections and do your best route for you that day. So that's the one thing it doesn't do, but our folks kind of know where they need to go, but it will help them if they're not sure where to go next and the quickest way to get there. Shows us our inspections location, the type of permits, the permit numbers, and the type of inspections, and it also gives us the inspection contact, who scheduled it. In the inspection tab, it pulls all of the permit inspections request data automatically. So if they made a special request, like please call 30 minutes prior, it'll show up on this page here. If it's got a gate code, or let's say it's a house that's got renovations and it's not occupied, they can leave a door code there. And then we can, use that information is available to the inspectors. We can log corrections needed, we can create checklists. So we've started adding checklists, code references. I've worked with staff. If there's something they write up all the time, we're going to go ahead and put that in there. It'll save them time in the field. They can just check, hey, this passed or this failed, and it'll automatically go into the report. It also shows the inspection history. So it'll show, if this is a re-inspection, it'll show what we wrote up the last time. It'll also show other inspections that were conducted for that permit. You can go back to the permit tab from that inspection and actually have access to everything. So this is where you'd go back if you wanted to pull the plans up, or let's say it's a residential and you want to see the truss package, they could go back there, pull it up, and verify that what they've got in the field is what was approved. Here's an example, just pulling one of the plans from one of the projects that's been submitted. Normally what we're asking for is our building plans, site plans, surveys, and they can actually have reports. Like for most of our track builders, we're asking for soils, termite reports. They'll actually have access to those right there in the field. When we're conducting an inspection, once you're in there, you're going to result it. Our standards are approved, partially approved, or disapproved. We can move forward with something that's partially approved. If it's disapproved, they've got to just call it back in. But we do give the freedom there. And we also can, if we find that we're missing something there, we can always add another status. It also helps us. It's going to track the time spent on the inspection. We can actually track the time driven from one inspection to the next. They have to enter it, but it'll help. It will help us support our staffing needs in the future. We can create our checklist. We can customize them as we need. And like I said, we can support the documentation of the inspection. If there's a deficiency there, we can get a picture of it, and it lives with that inspection and that permit moving forward. There's an example of where it goes to live for the pictures. It's under the attachments. You can either take your pictures as you're going and then upload them at the end, or as you're going and you hit each deficiency, you can take those pictures. But it gives us that added documentation to the issues that were found out there. And that's the back office and the mobile office, and I'm going to turn it back over to Maury for SmartGov going to the future. Thank you.
So you kind of have seen the front, the back, the field. What we want to talk about now is just a little bit of what to expect as we continue to grow this system and really get into it. I do want to acknowledge there's going to be this first year of transition, right? There's definitely going to be a learning curve. We've got over 40 daily SmartGov users among our staff. We are continuing to work on improvements and trainings for internal processes. So as we see, we thought we were going to do it this way. That doesn't seem to work. We need to make a different change. We're just kind of asking the public to be patient with us as we go through some of those tweaks. But we expect, based on both the volume and the number of people working in it regularly, that we will pretty quickly make a lot of those enhancements. We'll continue to make public-facing improvements as well, doing things like adding help text to the portal. There's a lot of opportunities to do that. We're kind of learning where we need to put more information, what things we're getting questions about, so we can see how to do that rather than having just try to put things out there to begin with and leaving it. And we'll continue tweaking permits as needed. Staff will also be transitioning existing permits, so not just the permits that have been added since December, but those that have been to some degree through the review process. Staff is going to be making, a decision based on each permit, how far it's made it into the review process of, does it make sense to put it into SmartGov and finish it that way, or are they close enough to completion that we just need to continue and get them moved forward without delay? Reporting, I know, is a big thing that council is very interested in, and so I did want to let you know that there are some built-in reports that are now available on demand from the portal. If you go to the front page, there's a little box at the bottom that says reports that you can pull up, and the screenshot kind of shows some of the ones that we have on there right now. They are fairly basic. I would also say that they are limited currently by there not being a lot of data that we have entered in the system. I would expect that probably over the next 3 to 6 months, those will become more and more relevant for you guys as we get more data and more accurate data in the system. Our long-term goal is going to be to create some customized on-demand reports. So we'll be supplementing these using the report builder that SmartGov offers. There's going to be quite a bit of a learning curve with that on our end. So we ask your patience as I go through and teach myself how to use that. But the long-term goal will be to have some more robust reports that will be automatic. You guys can pull them as needed. The public can pull them as needed. And hopefully the long-term beyond that will be to have a dashboard that meets whatever we can set up to meet whatever needs the town may have. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that are options for the future. So we've already started talking to some other departments outside of development services about how they may be interested in using SmartGov. We have the ability to build applications for pretty much any other department that does a fee generating activity or a recurring inspection. Paul and I have already talked with police and public works. There's been some discussion about some of the things that Parks does that we can add in. So things like when the town would get a request for an additional trash can, that's been handled very manually. Now it's something that we can put out there. People can request it. Inspections and public works can field the request. They can pay online for it. And then that can go out rather than having to be come into the office, hand us a check, those kinds of things. We talked with PD about putting their road closure permits online, which is a great one because when you have special use or temporary use permits come in, sometimes they need those, and that way we can link those. It's not having to send applicants off somewhere else. So we'll continue to look at what processes are out there that we could build out in this. I did want to acknowledge that most development services software does come with a code enforcement module, and SmartGov is no different. We have not really built it out at the moment because SmartGov doesn't have a public-facing app that citizens can use to report issues. So at this point in time, we're sticking with Garner Info. There will be a larger discussion around code enforcement, and this will be considered as part of that. So long-term, we will see what happens, but there's a bigger discussion happening around that. And then finally, we recently found out that SmartGov has been purchased by Granicus. Granicus actually is the vendor that does the town's website as well. They focus on local government technology, so we are looking forward to what kind of software improvements we may see that are, specifically tailored to local government in the future. That is our hopefully brief overview of SmartGov, and we, as Paul said, are really looking forward to using it in-house and with the citizens. Paul and I are happy to answer any questions, and we also have Leah Harrison and Jeff Triesenberg out here to answer any questions or give any comments if they would like about how this has worked in their departments as well.
Well, Mari, thank you very much. And before I pass along the opportunity to ask questions, I just want to say to you and Paul and Jeff, Leah, Aaron, Jody, everybody who's been involved in this process for 5 years and more, the time and energy you've put into it is fantastic. The tool is unbelievably powerful. When Paul said effective and efficient, I believe he was understating the potential value of this thing. This is just a fantastic tool. My comment is wow. Just wow, what a job you guys have done and how much we appreciate the efforts you put into it. And the only question I have is how many of our current developer and builder partners will be readily adaptable to this? Are they using software that's compatible? Do they see something like this in other jurisdictions? How will this go?
Yeah, so there are a number of other development services software used by several municipalities in Wake County. So Raleigh and Morrisville use one called Energov, that's by Tyler. I know there's a couple different ones that we've looked at. So there's definitely ones that are out there. They have a lot of the same functionality. Those are ones that we reviewed when we were doing the software selection, so we know that they're good products too. The interface is obviously going to be significantly different, but I think the bones of what they're turning in should be similar. So I recall a conversation I had with someone from Kimley Horn a year or two ago that had submitted a permit to Raleigh, and she said, I submitted it, I made my best guess at where to put it. They sent me an email saying I put it in the wrong place and I had to resubmit it. So one thing I will say about that is that's a great learning experience and something to hear. And I know that our system, we can transition. If someone was to put in the wrong permit, we're able to make changes for them. So I think one of the things that's great about SmartGov is we have the ability in office to change and fix some of those things for our folks. So we're not gonna have to come back to them and say, you submitted the wrong thing. We're gonna need you to start over and do it again. So I'm very pleased that that's one of our options. We heard from the Triangle Community Coalition a couple months ago that there were some developers on that during that meeting that were basically saying we're really looking forward to this because they're very used to doing electronic plan review and online submittal. They've been waiting for this, so I think it will be very easily adapted to once they get used to how the system works. And we'll be working on a lot more help guides, to guide them through that initial step of getting accounts set up and how to do those first few applications. And then I know all the departments are planning to work with their folks that they work with regularly to kind of help guide them through that.
It's fantastic. It's great to know that we can be service-oriented and trying to make it customer-friendly, make it easy to do business with the town of Garner. So thank you again for that. And with that, I'll pass the questions and comments along to our council members. Mr. Vance, we'll start with you.
I would just say outstanding, great in the area of, I'm familiar with the plan review process using Bluebeam. That's what I used when I was with DOT. And just the interface with the various consultants and contractors with that particular product. It expedited the review process, and it brought the paper down tremendously. So I'm excited for you, just as much as you're excited in presenting it. And hopefully we'll be able to the staff will get familiar with the process and be able to use it as expeditiously as possible to continue on with the various reviews that they will need to do in other areas. I have nothing but good things to say.
Mr. Dellinger.
Makes it look fun. I want to get out there and start doing some inspections. Yeah, it looks really great. My only comment is sort of on the reporting stuff, and I know you got data to get in, and that takes time. But I think too, one of the challenges is at the council level and on the planning side, you're looking for projections. And so as you start to think about reports and data, mentally sort of be thinking about ways to do projections out, whether it's directly from this or working with planning and looking what's in the pipeline and the pace of things. Because I think that's always the challenge, is projecting out a quarter, 2 quarters, a year, 2 years, and then the numbers get fuzzy. But it gives that idea on the trend. Kind of reminded when you came in with the inspections numbers one meeting, and it was like la da da, and then it was like la da da, like that.
Yeah.
We couldn't have predicted it. That kind of goes against what I'm saying about projecting stuff. But that just kind of giving a feel for like patterns and what we're kind of seeing will be helpful when budgets and that kind of thing come up. So, but I know it'll take a while to get the data. One, to just get used to doing it, and then figuring out what's in there, and then how to get it out in a way that makes sense. So it looks great, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, our hope would be that, some of the data that's provided with the Talk of the Town on a quarterly basis, we'll be building some reports that can go in, so it's less manual of having to reach out to Paul and say, hey, how many inspections, we're going to be able to build some that have it with the detail that we want in it. And then in addition to that, it'd be available on demand. So I think that's going to be a really great benefit as well.
Manager.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timeline here, that looks like 6 years, but I know that we've all been wishing and hoping for many more years than that. And to see it become a reality it's mind-blowing, actually. I can't imagine how many hours, what kind of work you all put into this to get it where it is now and how much more work you'll have to do. We appreciate it so very much. I remember hearing those conversations about we need updated software, we need it updated. And now it's here, so congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Singleton.
Yes, a specific question. You talk about permits. I think we all are sitting here thinking of residential subdivisions or multifamily or a retail center or a commercial warehouse. But I know, you have to get a permit to put HVAC system at your house. All that's accessible in here. Everything, all permits, whether it's something as small as that or an electrical improvement at your home or plumbing to a several 100,000 square foot warehouse, all that's on here.
Yep, from literally top to bottom. So if you're a citizen that is looking to apply for a fence permit, backyard hens, you can go on there and apply for your zoning compliance permit. We've configured each of those individually. Paul's done a really great job, particularly with the inspection permits, to both simplify and streamline them so that there's just a few to choose from, but they really can cover all of those bases. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so the single trade and the changeouts was one. So we went from about 39 types of permits that we had in the old system to 6. And we used details to really dial down to what the need is. So the focus was making that single trade HVAC as simple as possible, even our residential. I worked with Wake County, Raleigh, Morrisville, our other neighbors, and said, what are you finding that are challenges when you went to this? And they said we had a lot of questions that we were asking, it was being entered wrong. So they've actually, some of them went back and changed their permit to reduce those questions, and then staff just gets it off the plans. But for our single trade, it probably takes less than 5 minutes to fill out the application, a dozen questions, and they're ready to go. But yeah, everything that you need from the building codes will be able to be applied for and issued out of there.
So you can go in here and enter, you have a name, address, and name, but you had George's Landing on here. You can go ahead and order George's Landing and find out what permits have been issued. Or if I got a new HVAC at my house, I can go punch in my address, it'll pull it right up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the idea is once we were able to transition all of our permits from the old system over, I think it goes back to 2005. The data's a little fuzzy, and as we kind of clean it up, it'll make it a little better, but we're trying to keep it there. So when we do have questions, if somebody buys a home and they say, do you have a permit when the last HVAC change out is, we can still have some historical data to help them out with.
Very good. Well, I know you've been working on this for years. I remember when we funded part of it in one budget, and we were going to put part of it in another budget, and then the issues came up with the other towns, and then COVID came, and that changed everything. So I'm glad it's up and running, and thank y'all for all your time. I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds or thousands of hours that have been tied up in this.
Mr. Matthews.
Great report, and your timing is perfect, especially with all the building and things that we know are right at our doorstep and coming, and just for the average citizen out there, this is a great tool, and our compliments. Great job.
Absolutely. And I want to just make one more addendum to what I said earlier when I was thanking each person by name who worked on this. I didn't thank the council members, nor did I thank Assistant Town Manager Hodges, who I just take for granted, just like they're part of the machine. The council members and John are always there doing their share. It takes a team. It takes a partnership. Our town slogan is Garner, a great place to be. We're going to have a little addendum we can stick in. It says a great place to be a builder or homeowner, because this is a great tool for all of them as well. So again, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just have one comment, and it might be helpful. Y'all gonna love this. Mario's gonna love me for this, and Rick will love me too. It might be helpful to do even like a 2 or 3 minute video for folks and say, this is the new tool, and if you need, just because people learn in different, you've already had that idea, I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely on the list of things to do.
Okay.
It's just the hours in the day. If I could just find another day or two somewhere, we'll get through all of it. No, that's a great suggestion. That's definitely something other SmartGov communities have done. It has been recommended. One of the things that we have done, particularly we did this for the business registration and we'll be doing more, is we have literal click-throughs, like that you can either go onto our website and see. Let me show you. So if you go under inspections and our business registration, so this is what we created, and we'll be kind of replicating this to other places. But you can come in here and look at how to create your portal account, and it'll walk you through step by step. It'll show you where to click, show you what information you got to put in, some alerts if there's some information you need to be aware of. And then, so we've done a number of these for, just getting started and creating your accounts, specifically for the business registration, because those folks were truly the front line of using this. And so this will be part of my goal for the next month or two, is to really build this piece out, both for the front and the back office, to help people know which things they need to do. So, if anyone leaves tomorrow, there's, resources that'll guide anybody new through how to use it. So.
Thank you. John, did
I
you
mean, I just
have-
wanted to thank you. I just wanted to say some thank yous tonight because, as has been mentioned, it's been a long time, working towards this solution. And we had some hiccups along the way. We had some unexpected things like COVID, but really what made this such a successful project was assembling a team of people that saw a shared vision for what we wanted to accomplish with this. And that's not just our department heads who are here tonight with Jeff and Paul and Leah, but also their staffs, because even folks in development services who've not been heads down helping get this implemented have been users and testers, or by Friday they'll be users on it. So it literally is touching everyone in all of those departments, whether they've been part of the implementation team or now part of the user team. So really wanted to thank all of them for their appreciation for the tools and what that's going to mean to our customer service and to their own workloads as well. Jeff and Lee and Paul have really jumped in and embraced what we've been working towards for the last few years. Paul has taken on additional responsibilities that go far beyond inspections per se, to make sure that all of our processes were working together. And so I really appreciate the additional time and effort that he's put into that. And really want to say a very, very special thank you to Mari, who took this on as a special project. And she has very skillfully navigated lots of process, personnel, technology challenges to get us where we are today, and really, I think, has put together a plan and executed it well for a system that is a very good tool internally, and is going to be a very great tool to our users. So thank you to all of the team over there for that, and for our employees that are listening or watching. I want to make sure that everyone in Development Services knows we appreciate the time and effort that they're putting into helping get to this point today, but their embrace of the system that they're going to be using by the end of the week.
Fantastic comments. Fantastic comments. Well, again, thank you so much. You can relax now for at least 8 or 10 hours.
Okay.
And start over tomorrow. Thank you again very much. It's going to be hard to top that with our remaining reports. That's very dramatic and very meaningful news. But we'll try our best, and we'll have a manager report from Jody Miller.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I can already tell you that the pending agenda report is not going to be nearly as exciting as what Mari and Paul just presented to us. So I'm thrilled to see that project moving forward and can't wait to see all that it's going to bring to the community. As part of your agenda packet for tonight's meeting, we have our monthly pending agenda items. This would be for our March 2024 meetings. Wanted to point out just a few updates that we've had since the agenda packet went out last week. Specifically looking at March 5th under old new business. The Vintage Gardner Apartments developers has requested to reschedule their presentations and updates to the April 2nd meeting due to a scheduling conflict. And so we've been able to accommodate that. In an effort to continue our work in trying to load balance the meetings as well as council has described to us, that would work as far as pushing that back till the April 2nd meeting. The developers for that project have asked if for some reason something changes for our March 19th meeting. If someone needs to push another update or public hearing out, that they would be willing to come in and present to council on the 19th as well. But just wanted to let you know, as of right now, we've got them penciled in for the April 2nd meeting. In addition to that, on page 2 for the March 19th meeting, there's also been new public hearing added, the villas at White Oak. This is being requested to be added to the meeting on the 19th to meet the requirements for the funding application for financing a proposed affordable senior housing project. There is a deadline that's coming up in order to submit an application for the financing for that project, and so they asked if they could be included in our March 19th meeting. And we're trying to accommodate that in terms of the discussions that council has had around affordable senior housing as well. The final thing I wanted just to make council aware of for your March work session, we anticipate having our partners with the LMG project attend the work session and give council an update as to where they are in re-envisioning their project. I'm going to ask Mr. Hodges to give a quick update to council on that.
Right, and actually, we've actually not scheduled them for March yet, but we did want to report tonight that we have received a revised proposal from LMG based on the feedback in the last discussion they had with you, and that we received that so that it met their requirements to respond back within the 180-day extension for the MOU that council granted them. We're reviewing that now. We've asked for some additional information, and we have shared that with our partners in this, the Development Finance Initiative at the School of Government, who are our consultants on this project, and we're going to ask them to provide their evaluation of the revised proposal. So for anybody that wasn't familiar with this originally, DFI at the School of Government was our development partners, consultants that we worked with to create the request for qualifications, do some of the pre-work on the project, and then they guided us through the request and qualification process for the developers. And so part of their arrangement with us is that until the project is completed or until we have a development agreement executed, they are still on contract with us to continue doing those reviews. And so we've asked for that additional information. As soon as we get that, we'll provide that out to them. When we get a preliminary review of that back, then we'll share an update with you and then determine the best time to schedule that at a future meeting.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, LMG is the group that was helping us on the project adjacent to the rec center on Main Street.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when we had that land available, we contracted with DFI, the Development Finance Initiative at the School of Government, to get their help in developing a development program. Then they also, part of our engagement with them was helping create the request for proposals from the development community. Then they helped with narrowing down and helping council with the decision of who to select as the developer. The developer that was selected was LMG. We had a memorandum of understanding with them to come back with proposals. They did that, and then once it got closer to time to construct the project, there were some changes in the economy. Updated council. Council was willing to have an extension of the memorandum of understanding with LMG to allow them to look at some alternatives, since it did not appear that the original proposed project could be developed as it was proposed. So what we've received back from them is that revised proposal, and we're now working with DFI to gather some more information from LMG. DFI will then help us analyze that. Once we have that, we'll bring that back to council to give you an update as to where we are and any recommendations DFI has for moving forward.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Mayor?
Yes, and we expect to hear, we on the council expect to hear more details about LMG's recommendations or options would be roughly.
We're hoping in the next 30 days. And so when Ms. Miller said the next work session, we're hoping to target an update by the next work session. I just wanted to clarify that we hadn't locked in scheduling that they would be here to present that night yet, depending on what we need to get from them and DFI's time to review it.
Excellent. Well, in my opinion, it's good news that they're still alive and well and they're still thinking about us, and we might see part of the dream that we saw before.
Yes, sir.
Even with modifications. Thank you very much, John.
Mayor, members of council, we're happy to answer any questions about any other items that have been including on your pending agenda list for March at this point. And we have several of our staff members here who maybe will provide some more details.
Yeah, so conversations with the mayor and members of council. Council's requesting a couple of field trips. One to around Garner to try to look at projects that we have approved in the past several years and kind of assess them and what they're meeting sort of our expectations. And then another date to go to several different projects around Wake County and see kind of what is going on in the county, what we can draw inspiration from as we kind of mold things to our Garner Forward plan. And I think there'll be some juggling on schedules to try to find those times. I did reach out to Attorney Jones on the requirements for us doing it as a group. I don't know if she has an update yet or not, but
I can give it to you now if you'd like, or I can send out the email later. But I mean, basically, if there's a quorum of council and that you're either traveling or gathering together for the purpose of conducting public business, then it does have to be noticed as a special meeting with 48 hours notice. I feel that this is the best. It prevents you from having a gag order, basically saying you can go and look at a site but can't talk about it. And it also prevents any public perception that there's an improper, meeting happening. So I have an email to send out to you to follow up with that information as well. But it basically, now if you would go in smaller groups, it wouldn't necessarily have to comply with the Open Meetings Act, but it may be logistically more difficult to plan those.
I think too, there's a desire to have some staff accompany us as well, and then kind of come back to the work session at the end of March and sort of, have some thoughts on what we've seen. I think too, there's a unanimity on council around not necessarily making any decisions on projects until we've done this sort of assessment. So I think the public hearings, I think an agreement can stand as we would continue to move those forward. But any decision meetings, perhaps other than the White Oak Villas that you've brought, it's a kind of out of cycle and a little different. We can look at those one by one. So I think we just need to find some dates and coordinate with staff on when we want to do that. And
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for initiating this idea. I think you and Mr. Vance were the real ringleaders on this thing. Mr. Vance, you're just a pretty face telling us about it. Is that right, Dan?
I don't know about that. I'm not pretty face.
I don't know about that either.
Okay, but the idea of test driving prior decisions and going back and seeing how it looked on these papers and how it looked in the artist's rendition, and then you go back a couple years after it's finished and say, is that what we dreamed it would be or is it not? And if it was what we dreamed it would be, write down the recipe that created this decision. If it was not, what do we need to improve our recipe, our process to get what we really dream of? So hats off to, taking a hard self-test to see how it looks in the real world. We have to sharpen our tools. We have to refine our process. Thank you very much. Jody, did you have anything else to add on your manager reports?
So just for clarification, I think I heard talking about cases moving forward that didn't require a decision, but for the items that are on the pending agenda for March that are coming back for a council decision, I would just ask if we could make sure we understand council's consensus tonight on what we need to communicate to those developers that were currently scheduled to come back for a decision.
I feel strong we need to move ahead with our current schedule. We'll do the best we can. Because
Okay.
this is that difficult transition period from where
Okay.
we were to where we want to be.
Thank you.
And we don't want to penalize our developer builder partners by artificially holding them up. So
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify and make sure I understood.
Thank you. Yeah, we wish they would be willing to wait a month or two while we do our field trips, but we'll stay on schedule.
So just to clarify, the March 19th meeting under old new business. Both Mahler's Creek and the Park at Garner Station will both be here expecting a vote on those subdivisions, on those projects. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments on the manager's report?
Thank you for the clarification. As far as the March agenda, we'll continue to work on this. In addition, we will start working on finding times on people's calendars to go ahead and schedule those tours. If there are specific places that council would like to see and make sure we include on our tour, if you wouldn't mind sharing them with me, and then we can make sure we go ahead and get that coordinated. We may even see if the Parks and Rec will let us use their new van, their new wrap van to go on our tour. So we'll work on coordinating that for council.
That'll be great. And if our citizens want to go with us, we'll charter another bus too. We'll get a big bus, whatever it takes to be legal, transparent, and getting all the input. So thanks for the concept.
Down to earth, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on another flight of fancy. Maybe we'll do it in a helicopter. No, just kidding. Okay. And with that brings us to attorney reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to let council know that I will be attending the Municipal Attorneys Conference this Thursday and Friday in Chapel Hill.
Okay. I was in Chapel Hill 2 days last week for what I call Mayor Reform School, mandatory training. I got out alive. I'm still here. I learned a lot. Okay. And we have a place for council reports. Are there any council reports? We'll start it. Mr. Matthews in.
We got an event coming up as part of the veterans group, and it's going to be a salute to the troops. So I'll make sure our public affairs gets a copy of this. It's going to be at Aversboro Church Sunday, March the 10th, 4 to 6. And we're going to have special guests, inflatables, free hot dogs, military vehicles. Miss North Carolina is going to be there. It's going to be quite an event. And it'll be that Sunday afternoon, March the 10th, from 4 to 6. And I'll get this to our PR department so they can put word out on that. So our veterans groups, we've got a lot going on. So
Great.
Aim high.
There you go. And keep pushing there, Mr. Matthews. Thank you very much for heading that up. Mr. Singleton?
Yes, I saw Ms. Harrison before the meeting and thanked her for striping the parking spaces on Fifth Avenue. They were all faded, and it does look better. Also mentioned I noticed stop bars on many of our town streets that have been resurfaced and so forth. Vandor Avenue is one, so they have put those in, and we'll see how, they look great. Most people don't know what it's called, a stop bar. Most people ignore them also, but that's just sad to say. But I appreciate them putting it in. It looks nice, and it does let people know that they're supposed to stop there at the stop sign. So appreciate that change in what we're doing. And I also noticed that with the striping project you got after the resurfacing work on Lakeside, the missing pieces have all been connected again. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Singleton. Ms. Behringer? No reports? Mr. Dellinger?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Vance?
Nothing new, sir.
All right. Boy, you guys have told us a lot tonight. This has been a very productive meeting. Thanks particularly to all the staff who have helped us out there. I think that completes our regular agenda, and it looks like we have the opportunity to move to a closed session. And I'll ask if there's a motion from one of our council members for that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into a closed session pursuant to NC General Statute Section 143.318.11, A, parent 6, discuss qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of an appointment of an individual, public officer, or employee.
Thank you for the motion, Mr. Matthews. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms.
Vance here.
Mr. Vance, okay. So all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any,
Aye. I'm going to say aye. So I've been saying aye for 30 years.
keep on saying
Aye works.
whatever works for you.
Aye
man.
works. For 30 years, it still works.
I wasn't in the Navy saying aye, sir, and all that stuff, but whatever works for you.
Well, I wasn't either. No.
As long as
I
you
didn't serve.
make a noise during that round, and then when I say all opposed, no or nay or whatever y'all say in the Navy on
Yeah,
it.
I wasn't in the Navy. Now, you talking to Mr. Matthews and Mr. Vance. They're the ones that served, not me.
Well, okay. Any opposed to that motion signify by saying no or the negative of your choice. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. And at this point, I will terminate the open session and we'll move to the closed session. Thank you for coming tonight. We return to our open session. We finished the closed session and we're kicking off again here. We adjourned to the closed session to consider personnel action, actually two. After much discussion and thorough review, we've reached some decisions. And at this point, I will accept a motion on the first of the issues.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve a mutual separation agreement with the town of manager Rodney Dickerson with a separation effective on March 1, 2024 at 4 p.m. and authorize the mayor execute the mutual separation agreement on behalf of the town.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Matthews and a second by Mr. Vance. And I'll put this to a voice vote of the council. All in favor of accepting this motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed by no? Hearing no opposition, that motion passes unanimously. And I would like to make this statement to all concerned. The town council is grateful for Mr. Dickerson's 23 years of service to the town. He has served as town manager since March of 2016. He was initially employed as an assistant to the town manager and later as assistant town manager before being appointed town manager. As town manager, Mr. Dickerson led the town through the difficult COVID-19 pandemic. He also guided the town through completion of several major bond projects, oversaw key property acquisitions, and had numerous other significant accomplishments that have helped make Garner a great place to be. During his tenure, 3 town departments achieved national accreditation or reaccreditation: Public Works, Police and Parks, Recreation and Cultural Resources. We really appreciate his contributions on that. A second personnel decision was discussed and at length and reviewed, and I will accept a motion on that action.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve Jody Miller as interim town manager effective March 1, 2024, and authorize the mayor to negotiate and execute an interim employment contract with Ms. Miller.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Behringer and seconded by Mr. Dellinger. And I now will put this to a voice vote by the council. All in favor of accepting this motion, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
And any opposition or reluctance signify by saying no. Hearing no negative response, that motion passes for the record. And I would like to make this statement. Jody Miller will serve as interim town manager beginning 4 p.m. on March 1st. Ms. Miller joined the town as an assistant town manager in February of 2022. Prior to that, she had served as deputy county manager for Durham County since 2016. Ms. Miller also served as a deputy city manager for the city of Williamsburg, Virginia for 16 years. We look forward to working with Ms. Miller and staff during this transitional period. We're grateful to have you on board. Thanks for your help. And that concludes the summary of what we accomplished in the closed session. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn this open session.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Matthews and a second by Mr. Singleton. All in favor of accepting that motion to adjourn signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed by saying no. Hearing no opposition, we now adjourn this meeting of the Town Council. Thank you for your attendance tonight and your attention.